Now that the early TBC raid content has been released for public testing on the beta realms, it's been met with this cry of, "It's too easy!" which has also led to cries for Blizzard to go in and intentionally buff the content to make it more difficult. I think it's about time we have a really proper debate about, should we buff or should we not buff the TBC raid content? So in a proper debate, there's always two sides. There's the person who takes the pro and the person who takes the con or the against. Well, it's just me here on the channel, so I guess I'll take both sides. So here comes the first proper Nano versus Nano debate. Should TBC raids be buffed? I mean, the first time we've seen Karazhan legit in like 14 years, my group was able to go in with this crappy blue gear they gave us in the beta and clear it within like 2 hours. Yeah, there were some things that were weird and bugged, and Curator had this like crazy new thing, which I actually kind of liked, but in general, the content was really easy. The bosses were really pretty simple. And do I really want this to be my raid content for the next 3, 4, 5 months in the first phase of TBC? I'd rather a challenge, like Blizzard go in there and tune up the numbers, give us 50%, 100% more HP buff, make the damage values higher, and actually give us a challenge and make Kara really progression the way it was back in 2007 for a lot of players. Yeah, I get this idea that Karazhan's just an entry-level raid and it's a 10-man content. Well, back in 2007, Karazhan was actual progression. People went in and they tried and they failed and they wiped, and every boss encounter was like, okay, let's take the guild picture to put on our website. We accomplished something today. Well, we're not going to have that in TBC Classic unless Blizzard goes in and intentionally buffs the content. Now, I don't want it to be like Mythic Shadowlands level where I have to wipe 600 times in order to clear a boss, but it should be a little bit more difficult than MC level Classic. Listen, Nano, I get it. Like, the raids are easy now, but it's because we're smarter and we're better. And, you know, it's the same content. Like, you even put out a video that said, yeah, this content was hard back then because we didn't know what the crap we were doing. Like, I get it. But do you really trust Blizzard to go in and tune the content correctly the first time around? What if they overtune it and then it becomes too difficult for the very most casual player base to participate in this content? Or maybe they still undertune it and you're still not satisfied and you want them to go back again on another pass and tune it more. Listen, the safest and the smartest play for Blizzard is to just put it as their version and let it live. And if it's easy and we don't want to do easy content, then that's your choice. And honestly, if you want really hard content in an MMO, there's another place for you to go that has really hard raiding content. It's called Mythic level in Shadowlands. Listen, there has to be some level of difficulty in between Mythic raiding of Shadowlands and Classic MC that we can find a happy medium to land the difficulty of the TBC raids. Like, they're already making changes to TBC. They're adding crazy boosts. They're changing the way that paladins work. There's a number of things. Like, why can't we continue the changes into TBC raid content and make it, you know, a little bit more difficult? I mean, obviously, yeah, it's possible, but is it really probable? Look, the history of Blizzard taking player feedback and then applying it to World of Warcraft is not kind to the game, let's be real. Players wanted flying mounts and all of a sudden they got flying mounts and they kill world PvP, and now they don't want flying mounts in the current retail, but when you take it away, there's another set. Like, players aren't one amalgamation, they're not one opinion. There's a big group of people on both sides of any given issue. And so if Blizzard takes the role of, yeah, let's buff the content, then there's a whole nother group of people that after that decision is made is going to yell and scream because they don't want buff content. Like, Blizzard's in a situation where the only smartest way to go about the game is to just put it out as it was and let it stand on its own. And if people call it too easy, they're like, I'm sorry, that's just what it is. This hard and fast, no changes philosophy negatively affected Classic. It kept Blizzard from being able to make smart, targeted changes to the game. No changes from me has always been about, is the experience now is as close to the experience back then as possible. And the experience now can't be the same if the numbers now are the same as they were back then. Can it be how it was anymore if it's exactly the same now as it was then? And the answer, I think, in the world of Warcraft is no. The only variable that's changing between now and TBC originally are the numbers. Everything else has changed. Our computers are better. The internet's better. We're better as players. We have much more information than we ever did before. And so without changes, no changes is impossible. Listen, that sounds great and all, but it's just not possible. We can't have the same experience now as we had back then. If you go back and play Pokemon Red Blue as originally was, like, you just don't have the same experience playing it now as you did back then when it was new and fresh and exciting and you were learning it and you were younger. I mean, the biggest difference, honestly, between TBC then as it was now and your experience is your age. Your life is very different than it was back then. If you played TBC in 2007, 14 years ago, you're probably in a much different state of your life. You're in your late 20s, early 30s, maybe even older if you played it when you were a kid, and your life just looked really differently. Like, you had very little responsibilities. Maybe you were in college and this is what you were doing for fun, like, and now you're in your 30s and you have a real job and you have a family and wife and kids, and it's just different. You can't go back to the way it was, no matter how much nostalgia you want to chase. It's just not possible. I think that's about where the debate is. Like, it's the same points over and over again, right? But which side are you on? Should Blizzard buff the raids? Should Blizzard not buff the raids? Should they do some changes to try to emulate the experience? Or should they just leave it alone and just make the numbers as they were? Let me know in the comments below, and what parts of the argument did I miss? What do you think is really important to talk about that I didn't add? Remember to like and subscribe. I'm Nano, and I'll see you in the next one.